So hello everyone and welcome to Time Management for Authors with me, Dahlia. Let's get one thing straight. Now I'm being interrupted by an Android. That's very typical. Anyway, yes, please, let's get one thing straight away. I am not some infallible time management guru who has never wasted a second of her life. Even though I'm German and therefore supposedly born efficient and disciplined, I have absolutely spent time binge watching Netflix, doom scrolling social media, and reorganizing my bookshelves instead of writing. What I am, though, is someone who has spent a lot of time reading about and experimenting with different time management strategies. Some worked, some didn't, and over time I figured out what was actually useful and what was just productivity fluff. And here's the most important lesson I've learned. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. We all work differently. Some of us thrive on structure while others need flexibility. Some of us write best in the morning while others don't even feel human before noon. Some of us can follow rigid systems effortlessly while others need something looser to keep their creativity alive. But most traditional time management systems assume that everyone works the same way. And if a system doesn't work for you, you are the problem. But that's simply not true. I myself didn't question this for a long time because I personally do work well with structure. But that changed when I attended a workshop on motivation and time management, where instead of jumping straight into systems, we first talked about personality types and how they impact time management. That same day, coincidentally, I listened to a writing podcast featuring Becca Syme, who helps authors improve their productivity using the Clifton Strengths framework. And she was talking about the same problem. And so in this, both experiences reinforced the same idea. Most traditional time management advice was designed for people who already function well with structure and discipline. Because of that, it's often advice from natural high achievers aimed at other high achievers to help them squeeze out even more productivity. Over time, this created an echo chamber that keeps reinforcing the same beliefs about how to get more done, assuming, wrongly, that these methods work for everyone. So if you've ever tried a time management system and it didn't work for you, that doesn't mean you're hopeless. It just means that system wasn't built for the way your brain works. So if you take only one thing away from this class, let it be this. Time management isn't about following a strict system. It's about finding what works for you. Now, I can give each of you a full personalized system. But what I can do is offer you a buffet of time management strategies. Some of them will work for you, some won't, and that's okay. The key is to experiment and find out what's your own mix of strategies that help you write more and stress less. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to look at the key question. What is time management? In short, time management is organizing your available time effectively so that nothing essential gets overlooked. For writers, this means making sure you actually have time to write instead of getting lost in emails, marketing, or admin work. It means creating a sustainable writing habit that allows you to finish projects without burning out. It means finding a balance between writing, revising, and all the other tasks that come with being an author. To do that, you need to answer two questions first. The first one is, how much time do you actually have? For this, I really recommend that all of you keep a time diary for a week or two. Track what you do each day and how much time you spend on different tasks. Only when you know where your time is actually going can you start figuring out how to manage it effectively. And the other question is, what is essential for your writing career? If you don't know what your goal is, structuring your time is pointless. That's why defining your writing priorities is just as important as learning productivity hacks. Think of it like shaping a novel. Whether you meticulously outline or discover the story as you go, you still need a sense of direction to ensure your time is spent on meaningful progress. The same applies to your writing schedule. You need a clear direction, otherwise you'll find yourself doing a lot, but achieving little. We covered goal setting and planning in yesterday's workshop because knowing what you're working toward is the foundation of good time management. If you couldn't attend the class, it should be posted on the Discord within the next week or two. But I'll post the link to yesterday's class document along with today's in the chat so that you have everything handy to look it up. So anyway, back to the slides. There are also two principles that I found in every effective time management method I tried. The first is intention. Be deliberate about how you spend your time. Just like crafting a novel with purpose, your daily schedule should align with what truly moves your writing career forward. The second thing is reflection. You should regularly assess how your day went and what needs adjustment. Like revising your manuscript, take time to review what worked and what didn't, so you can refine your approach moving forward. Now that we have this foundation in place, it's time to explore some practical tools and strategies that can help streamline your writing process and make better use of your time. So let's talk about weekly planning, because if you don't plan your week, someone else will. Whether that's your inbox, social media, or everyone else's requests. That's why weekly planning is such an essential pillar of time management. It helps you make sure there's space for what you want to get done, especially for writing. One of my favorite strategies is to create what I call an ideal week. Think of this as a template for how you would like to spend your time. In this ideal week, you block time for writing and other important tasks, as if they were fixed appointments. Because if you don't protect the time, someone else will likely take it. Next, I'd like to show you an example of an ideal week with blocks for writing, admin, breaks, and whatever matters most to you. Now, you don't have to go into that much detail if that's not your style, but I just personally like to have everything scheduled because I thrive on routine and structure. And I also tend to overbook myself if I don't have something in my calendar. It just helps me to stay more focused and to get things done. But of course, we don't live in a perfect world, don't we? So after creating your ideal week, it's important to look ahead at your actual week and adjust it. And you look at what appointments are already on the calendar. Are there any deadlines coming up? Are there days you know you'll be unavailable because life happens? You want to adapt your ideal week to reality, but still protect time for writing wherever you can. Let's take a look at my actual schedule for the week. As you can see, maybe not because it's very colorful, there are a few things that have changed up my ideal week. First of all, the times for my day job. Now, they have changed because I took 2 days off, but I also have an unplanned Zoom call on Monday that I had to fit in. Plus, I'm staying at my mom's place right now, which shifts my usual routines. Things like housework look a little different, and meal times have shifted to an earlier time than I usually eat, since my mom eats an hour earlier. And because evenings are usually family time when I'm visiting her, I haven't scheduled any writing in the evening. On top of that, I'm teaching a few times this week. So I needed, first of all, to add the teaching calls on my calendar, but also 2 more admin blocks, because that's also when I prepare for my classes. And I also have 2 evening Zoom calls that switch my routine up as well. But even with all these adjustments, I made sure to protect my writing time, so I still get my usual 15 hours of dedicated writing time in this week. Yeah, Mano, where's the gym? Yeah, I don't have a gym right now because I'm at my mom's place, but at home I actually have like a stationary bike. Is that what it's called in English? So that I can get some movement in during my morning routine and my evening routine. And also part of the evening routine, if there's good weather, is taking a walk, because that's really health is important, which is also a point on the later slide of this presentation. Oh yeah, I was really looking at training wheels as well, since while I have, now I'm a bit on a tangent, but it's an important topic. I have a standing desk at home, but it would also be nice if I could just walk instead of just stand. But that may come at another time. But let's get back to the presentation. Oh, and don't worry. As you said, health is very important. So, and now that we have planned out the week, there's one final and maybe most important step, that's to take a look at your goals and to-dos for the week, so you know exactly what you'll be working on during those dedicated time blocks you've planned. Having a to-do list is a great first step. It helps to get everything out of your head and makes sure you don't forget anything. But just having a list isn't enough. We also need to be intentional about what actually makes it onto the calendar and gets done. We'll talk more about how to decide what's truly important in just a minute when we dive into the Eisenhower Matrix. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this before. But for now, just keep in mind, weekly planning isn't about filling every space on your calendar. It's about making room for what really matters. So I'm sure a lot of you have at one point seen this nice little graphic. One of the biggest mistakes writers make is spending too much time on urgent tasks instead of important ones. Like, picture this: you sit down at your desk, determined to finally make progress on your novel. But before you even open your manuscript, you quickly check your email. And I tell you, quickly is a lie. It's always a lie. And because, oh look, there's a message from a reader that you have to answer immediately. And a new social media notification. And before you know it, you've spent an hour replying to comments and tweaking your website layout, and you haven't written a single word. And this definitely wasn't an anecdote from my life recently. But this is where the Eisenhower Matrix comes in. It's a very simple but powerful tool that helps you categorize your tasks so you focus on what's truly matters. And it's like you have different quadrants, from not urgent to urgent and from not important to important. And tasks that fall into the important and urgent categories are things like deadlines, contract obligations. These are the things you have to do rather immediately. But there are also these not urgent but important tasks. And these are your long-term goals, like drafting your novel or developing your author brand. These are the things that deserve a place in your calendar. You need to schedule them, because here's this thing: this is where the real success happens. If you don't follow your long-term goal of finishing your novel, you have nothing to publish. So this is where you have to put your focus. But these tasks are often the first to get overlooked because they're not urgent. until the deadline is really close and they move from here to there. But that's something to prevent burnout that you should prevent doing. Because once people start breathing down your neck on this ones, it gets really stressful. So these are the goals that you should definitely prioritize when you're building your schedule for the week or the day, since they're crucial if you want to make real long-term progress as a writer. Then we have tasks that are urgent but not important, which are emails, minor admin work. This is stuff that you, if possible, should delegate or at least minimize these distractions. And then there's stuff that's neither urgent nor important, like checking Twitter for the 10th time to see what wild stuff was posted there, or to fall into other funny rabbit holes like Manor mentions, like Facebook, TikTok, YouTube can be a rabbit hole like this. And a lot of stuff that's just basically like an infinity pool of information. That's also a thing we'll come back to later. But these time wasters should be eliminated. And if you feel like you cannot live without checking Twitter at all, schedule like, I don't know, half an hour in the evening or after lunch when you know that you're not productive anyway to do this. And then don't look at this outside of this small little time boxes. A good rule of thumb for this is this whole thing is if it moves your writing career forward in a meaningful way, it belongs in category 1 or 2. And for everything else, either delegate it, minimize it, or cut it out entirely. I want you to take a moment and think about your own writing life. What are the tasks that feel urgent but aren't actually important? Are you spending too much time on marketing when you haven't finished your next book yet? Are you responding to emails before you've done your writing of the day? Oh, and yes, bathroom time is a good idea. And not right before sleep. For using, looking up Twitter and stuff.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
it's short.
So now that you've thought about all these tasks in your writing life, you can make the mental note to go through the matrix and see where you can put them and if they're actually important enough to be on your schedule at all. So as writers, we don't just need general productivity strategies. We need something that's quite simple and flexible and easy to repeat so that we can plan our days without getting overwhelmed. That's why I recommend to you the CLEAR method. It's the English-friendly version of the German Alpen method, which has been used in time management for decades. But hey, if the efficient sound of German motivates you, or if you like the idea of climbing the Alps every day, I dropped the original German acronym in the chat for you as well. But I thought that CLEAR is maybe something that you can more easily keep in mind than Alpen. So you get a little preview in the chat. Using this fairly easy method, with just a few minutes of preparation, you can set yourself up for a productive and stress-free writing day. We have already planned our week, which is great, but let's be real, how often does our week go exactly as planned? Life happens, unexpected things pop up, and that's why a daily planning routine is so important. Taking a few minutes every evening or first thing in the morning to reassess what's important can make a huge difference in staying on track. The CLEAR method helps you just to do that. First, capture. List all tasks for the day. This includes writing, admin work, errands, or anything else that requires your time and attention. Length. Estimate the time you need for these tasks. And be realistic. If you think a task will take an hour, but it always takes 2, adjust your estimate accordingly. Evaluate. This means that you have to prioritize tasks by urgency and importance. You can use the Eisenhower Matrix if you need help deciding what truly matters. Adjust. It always helps if you build in some buffer time for the unexpected. Because let's be real, unexpected things do happen. And so it's better to be prepared. If you schedule every minute of your day without flexibility, you'll get thrown off at the first sign of disruption. And I can assure you I'm guilty of this, that getting back on track when you've been derailed completely, that's often harder than being realistic and scheduling in some buffer time and don't filling your plate too full. The last bit is to review. Reflect on the progress you made at the end of the day and look at what got done and what didn't. For example, did you overestimate how much time you had or how much time you would need, or underestimate how much time you would need for a task? Or were there any distractions you could minimize tomorrow? And here's also the pro tip to schedule tasks in your calendar. Seeing your plan visually helps prevent overbooking yourself, even on this daily schedule thing. I can't tell you how many times I've gone through my to-do list, assigned time estimates, and then, surprise, realized I planned 16 hours work into an 8-hour day. Like, for the people who were here yesterday, we all know how good I'm at maths. So it's better to just visually put it in because it forces you to acknowledge how much you can realistically fit into your schedule. And also make sure to quit when you're done for the day. This is crucial for energy management. Just because you could squeeze in one more task doesn't mean you should. I mean, if you really, really overestimated how much time you needed, and it's like 12 p.m. and you are done with the to-do list, you may go ahead and put in some more things. But if you only have like an hour or half an hour left, it's fine to finish your work early and enjoy your free time. So now that we've talked about how you can plan your time with true German efficiency, let's move on to structuring your actual writing sessions. Because let's be honest, it's so easy to sit down with the best of intentions, only to realize an hour later that you've written exactly one sentence or generated one scene, but somehow managed to answer 12 emails and watch a bunch of cat videos. This is where time boxing and the Pomodoro Technique come in. They help you take control of your time rather than letting distractions dictate your writing day. Time boxing means setting fixed time blocks for specific tasks. Instead of saying, I'll work on my book until I feel like stopping, you decide, I will write for 90 minutes, period. And this is useful because of one thing that's called Parkinson's law. This law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. So if you give yourself all day to answer your emails, it'll take all day. If you give yourself 30 minutes, suddenly you focus on the essential replies and ignore the rest. Time boxing, in my experience, works particularly well for admin and marketing tasks, where it's easy to get sucked into endless busy work. For example, instead of checking email all day, set a strict 30-minute email window and stick to it. When the time is up, you move on and you're free. For tasks that require deep focus, like writing, Pomodoro is an excellent method. It works like this. You choose a task, For example, drafting a chapter, you set a timer for 25 minutes. This is called a Pomodoro. Then you'll work with full concentration until the timer rings. As a reward, you take a 5-minute break. You stand up, stretch, or breathe. And then you repeat the cycle. After 4 Pomodoros, you can take a 15 to 20-minute break. The Pomodoro method is great if you tend to get easily distracted or feel overwhelmed by large tasks. Instead of thinking, I have to write 5,000 words today, you think, I just need to focus for 25 minutes. That's much more manageable. Yes, James, yeah. You should also breathe during the Pomodoro, just to make sure. But you can like take a deeper breath when you're on your break. But yeah, breathing at all times is very important. And talking about the length of the Pomodoros, it's something you can absolutely adapt to fit your own needs. For example, if it usually takes you 15 minutes to tweak your next guided write prompt, make your Pomodoro 15 minutes and then take a break while Muse generates the next scene for you. The goal isn't to force yourself into some rigid system, but to create focused time blocks that actually work for you and the way you write. You can also adjust this according to the kind of task you're working on. For example, my drafting workflow looks a bit like this. I'll start with 15 minutes optimizing prompts. Then while Muse or Excellent is running the next scene, I'll take a short stretch break or grab a coffee. And once that's done, I'll use the next 15-minute Pomodoro to edit the generated write cuts, which is usually enough for a first editing pass, cleaning up aisms, fixing anything weird, or tweaking sentences that didn't quite hit right. After another short break, I shift back into tweaking mode and repeat the cycle. This works well for me because tweaking prompts and editing prose are very different tasks and they require slightly different mindsets. Having those breaks in between helps me mentally reset for each step. But when I'm in full-on editing mode, like doing a deep revision of a manuscript, I prefer longer Pomodoros, about 45 minutes, because it takes me some time to really sink into the editing flow, and I don't want to interrupt that focus too early. So it's really about finding a rhythm that matches the kind of creative work you're doing, whether that's short, focused bursts of drafting or longer, deep focus sessions of editing. And speaking of matching your workflow to the kind of task you're doing, there's another powerful strategy that can help with that, and that's called batching. Because let's be honest, even with the best time blocks and focus sessions, it's still easy to feel busy all day but accomplishing nothing meaningful. Have you ever had one of those days where you're constantly working, but by the end, you're left wondering what you actually got done? That's often because of context switching, jumping from one type of task to another and forcing your brain to constantly shift gears. And that's where batching comes in. Instead of scattering similar tasks throughout your week, you group them together and tackle them in focused sessions. This keeps you in the right mindset for each type of work and significantly reduces the friction of switching between unrelated tasks. Here are some examples how you can apply batching as a writer. You could set aside a dedicated day for outlining. Instead of planning one chapter at a time between writing sessions, block out a full day to map out your next few chapters or even the entire book. At least it's something for plotters. Planners like me have to be a bit more flexible and can't take that much advantage on the batching side. But you could also schedule a specific time for answering emails instead of constantly checking your inbox and getting sidetracked. Reserve 1 or 2 time slots per day, or depending how many emails you get per week, to deal with all the emails at once. Or with marketing, you can sit down and write multiple blog posts or social media updates in one go instead of spending time every day trying to come up with something to post. You can batch create your content so you have weeks or more worth of material ready. Batching works so well because it allows you to fully immerse yourself in one type of work at a time, increasing efficiency and reducing decision fatigue. You'll get more done in less time, and most importantly, you'll have more mental energy left for what really matters, your writing. And that brings me to something closely related, because one of the biggest reasons we struggle to stay focused is that we're constantly trying to do so many things at once. Here's the hard truth. For most things, multitasking is a lie. As a concept that was even invented for computers that could do multiple tasks at the same time, but not for human brains. We simply can't multitask, at least not when it comes to tasks that require real focus. Sure, you can listen to a podcast while doing the dishes, because one of those tasks is rather automatic. But when both tasks require mental energy, what we call multitasking is really just switching back and forth very quickly. And that prevents us from ever getting into deep focus. And as writers, when we're working on something like drafting or editing, that kind of deep focus is what leads to the best results. So for the kind of work that really matters, single tasking is the way to go. And we'll talk a bit more about how to actually get into that focus mode a little later. So if batching helps us stay focused on one type of task at a time, there's another challenge we need to address: procrastination. Because let's be real, even when we've batched our task and planned our week, sometimes we sit down to write and suddenly everything else seems more important. The laundry, the bookshelves, that random article about Viking shipbuilding, anything but writing. That's when Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog method comes in handy. It's a great way to tackle the most important and often most uncomfortable task of your day before anything else can get in the way. Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog method is simple. Tackle your most important and often most unpleasant task first thing in the morning. For writers, this often means writing first before checking emails or doing admin work. Although sometimes it can also mean doing your taxes, because that's something you have to do and usually you don't like to do it. And now let's be honest, procrastination is a universal struggle, especially for creative people. We know we should be working on our manuscript instead of reorganizing bookshelves, but suddenly everything else seems more important. The Eat the Frog approach helps us break this cycle. Imagine that every morning you have to eat a live frog. That frog represents the most important and most daunting task of your day. The idea is simple: if you do the hardest thing first, the rest of your day feels easier. So how do you apply this to your writing? First, you identify your biggest frog. This is the task that's most important, but also the easiest to avoid. Maybe it's finishing a tough chapter, plotting a tricky scene, or tackling revisions. Then you break this frog into bite-sized pieces. A huge task is intimidating. Instead of saying, like you had said before, write 5,000 words, break it down into write for 25 minutes or finish this one paragraph. And then you swallow it first thing in the morning. And don't let yourself get sucked into emails, social media, or busy work before you've made progress on your writing or whatever else your frog for the day is. And once you've done this, and this is the thing that helps me the most because I'm very easily motivated by rewards, is that you give yourself a little reward and pat your own shoulder for your small victories. Because even small things deserve recognition. After eating your frog, give yourself something to look forward for. your favorite coffee, a quick walk, or even a guilt-free break. Another approach to structuring your day comes from Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zaretsky. Unlike Eat That Frog, which focuses on tackling the hardest task first, Make Time is about choosing a daily highlight. One key task that will make your day feel successful. This isn't necessarily the most difficult task. It's the most meaningful one. Something that, if completed, would give you a genuine sense of accomplishment. This could be writing a pivotal scene, outlining your next novel, or even having an important brainstorming session. Think of it like this. Eat That Frog is about getting the tough stuff out of the way. Highlighting is about choosing what matters most to you. Sometimes these two things align. Your frog is your highlight, but sometimes your highlight might be something enjoyable, like brainstorming ideas or having a deep dive research session. The key is to be intentional about how you spend your time. So how do you choose your daily highlight? There are a few ways to approach it. You can look for something urgent that really needs to get done. You can pick a task that would give you a real sense of satisfaction, something that makes you feel accomplished when it's finished. Or you can choose something that would simply bring you joy, because yes, enjoying your work matters too. But whatever you pick, aim for a task that takes about 60 to 90 minutes, which is long enough to make real progress, but not so long that it feels overwhelming. And remember, you're only wasting time if you're not intentional about how you spend it. So now that we've covered some methods and tools, let's look at an example of how you might plan your day as an author. We start with capturing all to-dos for the day. Here's a sample to-do list an author might have. Write 3,000 words for the current novel. Respond to an email from the editor about manuscript revisions. Post on social media to engage with readers. Outline the next chapter to stay ahead in the draft. Check book sales and rankings on Amazon. Schedule a newsletter for upcoming promotions. And watch a webinar on book marketing trends. This is already quite a long list for not that many hours that you can actually dedicate to work. So the next step is to estimate the time needed for all these tasks. In this example, I assumed that we would need 3 hours for the writing, 15 minutes to respond to the email, 30 minutes for a social media post, 30 minutes to outline the next chapter. Optimistic, I was and said we only need 5 minutes to check book sales and rankings, because of course we would only do this once in the day, won't we? And another 30 minutes for newsletters. And the webinar is 2 hours long, so we would have to, it's less of an estimation, but it's just 2 hours that we would have to use for this. The next step, we would prioritize this task. First, let's identify today's highlight, the one thing that will make you feel accomplished. For me, that's writing the 3,000 words. But since it's a big task, let's split it into 2 90-minute sessions with a 15-minute break in between to protect my energy. For the rest of the task, let's take a moment to sort them using the Eisenhower Matrix. I'm just seeing that my presentation's not working quite like it should. So let's see. To-do list. Yeah. To respond to the editor's email would likely be urgent and important. So it's a thing to do first. Since if they are waiting on my reply, this is directly tied to moving my book forward, so I'll have to do it. So, other tasks that are not urgent but important would be outline the next chapter, since it's important to keep my momentum. but it doesn't seem so urgent. But I'd still block some time for it. The other thing would be to schedule the newsletter, since it's important to stay connected with my readers. But it doesn't necessarily have to happen today. So it's also something that I could plan in for later in the week if I run out of time. Now let's look at the tasks that are urgent but not important. Let's see, we have post on social media to engage with readers. On the one hand, engagement with readers is important, but social media is like a rabbit hole, and it often doesn't move the needle as much as we believe it does. So this is one of the tasks that I'll batch with other admin tasks, so it doesn't interrupt my writing flow. Same for checking book sales and rankings. Unless there's a major promotion happening, this should be just a quick check if I do it at all. You could argue that checking book sales and rankings is oftentimes neither urgent nor important. And lastly, currently not urgent but not important would be our webinar on book marketing. It could be interesting, but not essentially today. So it stays on the list and maybe gets rescheduled for another day. And the last fourth step would be to schedule everything into my calendar. Since writing is my top priority, I blocked out 2 90-minute writing sessions in the morning and 1 hour extra writing time after lunch to outline the next chapter and to stay ahead of the draft. To make room for that, I trimmed my admin time to a focused 1 hour time box where I handle the email, social media, and newsletter prep. Batching these together keeps me from getting distracted and for friends admin time from taking over my day. And finally, I've also added a 1 hour buffer just in case something pops up or a task takes longer than expected. And as I've said, I realized that I don't have the 2 hours to watch this webinar, so I scratched this. And by prioritizing writing and batching admin tasks, I make sure that my day reflects what really matters most, making progress on my book, while still leaving space to handle all the essentials. So, yeah. So now that we've looked at how to plan your day with a clear method and block time to what truly matters, let's talk about what happens next when life tries to hijack that carefully made plan. Because let's be honest, modern life is designed to steal your attention. You sit down to write and suddenly your phone lights up, your inbox dings, or a social media notification pulls you in. And as a writer, we are especially vulnerable to this. We want to engage with readers, stay active on social media, and keep up with industry news. But before we know it, 2 hours have gone by and we haven't written a single word. That's where make time comes in. And it's all about learning how to stop. It's all about learning how to stop being reactive and start intentionally making time for what truly matters. The book identifies 2 major traps that keep us busy but not productive. One is the busy bandwagon, the pressure to always be doing something. Like this feeling that we're only productive if we're like filling every moment of our time that we are awake with some kind of work. This feeling that we almost must be doing something, checking emails, engaging in every opportunity, and filling every moment with tasks, because being busy means being productive, right? Spoiler, it doesn't. The next thing are the infinity pools that we've also mentioned before. Social media, news apps, and streaming services. There are endless sources of content designed to keep us hooked. These platforms thrive on keeping us engaged, but they often drain the very focus and creativity we need for writing. So how do we fight back? It's actually quite simple, but although more difficult to do. It's by shifting our mindset from saving time to making time. We've already talked about the idea of a highlight, of choosing one key priority for the day that will make you feel accomplished. In the make time frame, what you highlight is the thing that, if completed, will make the day feel like a success, even if nothing else gets done. For fiction writers, that might be writing 1,000 words, drafting a particular difficult scene, brainstorming ideas for your next book. And notice what's not on that list: answering emails, updating your website, scrolling through book marketing forums. Those things might be useful, but they won't make or break your writing career. Prioritizing actual writing will. Of course, just choosing a highlight is one thing. Actually sitting down to do it is another. That's where laser mode comes in. The idea is simple. Distractions are the enemies of focus, and modern distractions are ruthless. Research shows that after a distraction, it takes an average of 20 to 25 minutes to get back into deep focus. So every time we check our phone or answer a quick email, we're not just losing a few seconds, we're losing a huge chunk of productive time. So how do you stay in laser mode? There are some practical steps that can help you to protect your focus. One is to block distractions. I love using Freedom app. So, sorry, I just got a message. See, distractions, we should block them out. And there are a few apps that can really help with this, like Freedom app is one thing that I'm using for years now that can prevent you from even accessing some of the pages that are constant distraction for you. Another tool app that I use on my phone is One Sec. That it makes a little what's the word? Delay when you want to open a app, and you have to double, like you have to think about, do I really want to go to Discord or Instagram? And that really helps you to check in with yourself and be like, nah, actually, I don't want to go to Instagram right now. And some funny other trick that really helps is if you set your phone screen to grayscale, since the moment it's not all colorful anymore, it's not as what? I've lost the word. It's not as alluring as it is when it's full of colors. Another thing to do is to delay distractions. Like the longer you wait to check social media or email in the morning, the easier it becomes to stay focused on your tasks, on what really matters. So actually the biggest productivity hack is do not reach for your phone first thing in the morning, no matter how hard this is. Another thing that helps you to get into laser mode is to use cues to enter this mode, like a particular playlist, a certain drink, or even a dedicated writing space can train your brain to snap into writing mode. Like the moment you get into the right situation. And now there's the thing about laser mode. It isn't just about cutting out distractions. You also need the energy to focus in the first place. Because even if you clear your space, silence your phone, and set up all the right cues, if you're running on empty, it will still be a struggle to get into laser mode. That's why taking care of your creative self is such an important part of time management. And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle, energize. How to manage your energy so you can actually use all the great strategies we've talked about. Writers, at least the most writers I know, love to push themselves. We hear stories about best-selling authors writing for 10 hours straight, or even more than that, and surviving on caffeine and minimal sleep. But the truth is, you are more than just your brain. Your brain is a part of your body, and if you don't take care of your body, your creativity will also suffer. So you have to really emphasize your energy management, because if you're exhausted, no time management hack will make you productive. Some simple but powerful ways to keep your energy levels high is one, to move more. Like switch from write when possible to walk when possible. Small movement breaks can really improve your focus. The next thing is eat real food and avoid sugary snacks. Your brain needs fuel, and it needs good fuel. Sugary snacks might give a short-term boost, but stable energy comes from real nutrient-rich meals. And lastly, prioritize good sleep. Treat your bedroom as a space for rest and not work. Poor sleep wrecks your creativity and motivation and prevents you from getting into laser mode. So now that we've talked about taking care of our energy, let's be honest, even with the best plans and intentions, some days just don't go as expected, and that's okay. Because time management isn't about perfection. It's about experimenting, adapting, and improving. Like writing a first draft. You don't need to nail a story on the first try, and you don't expect to do this. You experiment, see what works, revise and refine. The same goes for managing your time. A daily reflection routine is what makes that possible. Instead of feeling like you've failed when something doesn't work, reflection helps you learn, adjust, and keep going. And here's how you can approach time management like an ongoing experiment. First, you can observe. At the end of each day, you can ask yourself, did I make time for what really matters? If you didn't, you can guess what got in the way. Was it distractions, low energy, unrealistic expectations? And you can then make a good guess what other tactics might help fighting those distractions or the low energy. Then you'll experiment and try a new approach. Maybe you need a different writing schedule, better time limits on social media, or a new way to block interruptions. And in the end, you have to see if your change made a difference. If it didn't, that's not failure, that's just feedback. Adjust and try again. All in all, time management isn't about cramming more time into your day. It's about making space for what's truly important. If you want to build a writing life, the most important thing is to make time to write. Everything else, emails, marketing, admin, can be scheduled around it. Your writing is the foundation. And remember, you're only wasting time if you're not intentional about how you spend it. So we're almost on the hour, and we've covered a lot in this session. And if there's one thing I hope you take away, it is there's no single perfect time management system. What works for one writer may not work for another, and that's okay. Some of you thrive on detailed planning while others need more flexibility. Some love details, deadlines, and others find strict schedules stifling. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the strategies we've discussed, start small. Pick one or two ideas to try and build from there. Here's a quick recap of the key takeaways for today. First is define your one high priority writing goal each day. What's the one thing, if accomplished, that would make your day feel like a success? Then use Clear to plan your day effectively. Capture tasks, estimate time, prioritize, adjust for buffers, and review at the end of the day. Prioritize using the Eisenhower Matrix. Focus on what's important, not just what's urgent. Then use time boxing or Pomodoro to structure your work. Set clear boundaries for when and how long you will work. Then tackle the hardest task first. Don't let procrastination win. Face your biggest challenge early. Be mindful of distractions. As we talked about the busy bandwagon and the infinite tools, they're both designed to steal your time. Be intentional about where your focus goes. And finally, be kind to yourself. Not every day will be perfectly productive. Some days life happens. What matters is that you keep coming back, keep refining your process, and keep writing. So as a final exercise, I'd ask you to choose one strategy from today's session to implement starting tomorrow. Write it down, commit to it, and check in with yourself at the end of the day to see how it worked. And with that, we are at the end. Now I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions left. Since I've spent a lot of time talking, and I know there are a lot of things that I covered, but I don't want to just leave without giving you a chance to ask any questions.
I have one.
Okay.
Which method is more effective for authors under tight deadlines, batching or time boxing?
Oh, I think for deadlines, time boxing can be really helpful because if you know you only have this much time, you really have to put your energy and focus on the things that matters the most. So I would think, but you can also combine those things, like you use batching to get the work done for other tasks so that you have more time to work on the thing that you have on deadline. Did that help?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yep, we're welcome. Any more questions?
Chat was clear.
Chat's clear, awesome. So if there are no questions, I don't want to steal away your precious time. So thank you so much for being here today. I also want to thank my co-hosts for their support and for keeping an eye on the chat while I was busy talking. And thank you again for showing up, sharing, and engaging in the class. If you enjoyed this session, I'd be very grateful if you could leave a rating or review for this workshop. Your feedback helps us keep improving and offering sessions that are useful to you. Thanks again and happy writing.